Ollie is exploring books. Go forth, feline adventurer. Ollie is both fascinated and annoyed by my filming. Hello.
I love to read a book and be absorbed in words to escape.
Hi everyone, just a quick book haul here. I've done a bit of retail therapy over this past week. Quite foolish of me financially speaking, but I had the emotional need to go out and just purchase some books. Sometimes when you're feeling down, you just have the impulse to go out and spend some money on things that you really enjoy, and my automatic instinct was to turn to books. So here are some emotional retail therapy purchases from the past week. Pretty much all of these are high fantasy because I'm trying to get back into that genre, and quite a few are continuations or sequels to series. First up for a YA pick, I got Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This is the third installment in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. I've still only read the first book. I do own Days of Blood and Starlight, I just haven't read it yet. So at least now that I've got the complete trilogy, maybe that can be incentive to get back into it. I might even have to reread Daughter of Smoke and Bone, which could be a bit of a trepidatious experience, because as you may recall, I did have a love-it-hate-it relationship with that book. Maybe it will be a little better and a little more on the positive side on a second outing. Who knows? But yeah, got the third installment in that series. It's very shiny. I finally got the second installment in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. This is Dragonfly and Amber. I wanted to get these smaller editions because I own the first one. Cross Stitch is the Australian title. I don't know why. I still know it by Outlander, but these are the editions that I have, so I eventually want to build up the collection with these. I have to reread Outlander because it's been many, many years since I've read it, and I've only read about half. So with the TV series out now, I really want to get up to date and be ahead of it all. So I'm going to reread the first one and then I'll have the sequel to go straight into, hopefully. So that's kind of more historical fiction with a little bit of fantasy woven in there. And the last of my continuation purchases, this is Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness, which is the second book following A Discovery of Witches. I have only read half of A Discovery of Witches, but I fully intend to reread it and finish and go the whole way through. And I wanted to, again, own the same kind of edition that can sit alongside the first installment. So yeah, this one. And I do love that it's like a indigo colour because that's one of my favourite colours. There's time travel in this one, so I'm quite excited. I finally jumped on the fantasy bandwagon and I now own some Brandon Sanderson novels. I wanted to get his standalones before jumping into the Mistborn series or the Stormlight series or anything, just because I honestly appreciate standalones, especially in fantasy. I think it's very easy to get bogged down in a series and always having to wait for the next installment, and sometimes that can overwhelm and intimidate me a little bit. And I think a really well written standalone novel is always something to appreciate and enjoy, and there just aren't enough of them in my opinion. So when I learnt that he does have a few standalones, I wanted to get my hands on those first as my introduction to his writing. So I grabbed Warbreaker, which is about some princesses and a world in which there's like biochromatic colour thing to do with breath, and it all sounds very interesting. I mainly wanted to get it because there are female protagonists and I like that in my fantasy, as it can tend to be a bit of a boys club, male-centric genre. And I got Elantris because this is a bit of a prequel, if you will, to the Mistborn saga, and I'd like to read it before getting into Mistborn. I've heard plenty of positive reviews on both of these. I want to experience Brandon Sanderson's writing and his world building and everything because it seems that he is beloved by a great many people, and I would like to know what all the fuss is about. Another series that has been getting a lot of positive fuss is the Gentleman Bastards series, and this is the first installment. This is The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, and it sounds like it's going to be quite an enjoyable romp of a book, so looking forward to that one, even if it is the first in a series. Another first in a series, I've been curious about this one for a little while. This is called Cold Magic, and it's the first in the Spirit Walker series by Kate Elliott. I am a bit biased and I often prefer to purchase fantasy novels written by women, again just because the fantasy genre can sometimes feel a little male-dominated. And I like to show support for the female writers who are trying to make it in that category. And I've found in the past that I've really enjoyed works by female authors in fantasy. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to, of course, read plenty of works by great male authors, but I just like to, you know, give attention where it's due to the females as well. This one sounds really cool. I know there's dragons involved and a really unique kind of magic system, and it just sounded nifty. Again, a female protagonist, which is a bit of a thing for me. I've been curious about it for a while, so I wanted to pick it up. Another female fantasy author and an Australian female fantasy author, which is extra awesome. This is Fiona McIntosh's The Scrivener's Tale, and from everything I can tell, this is a standalone, and it involves time travel between modern day Paris and a mythical kingdom in another world. And just while I'm talking about Australian female fantasy authors, I want to give a quick recommendation inserted into here. I've talked about Isabelle Carmody plenty in the past, and if you haven't encountered her Obba Newton Chronicles, you really should go out and do that. They are YA, they have an appeal to all ages, I believe. They have now spanned 25 years. I'm pretty sure the first one was published in 1989. And they're still going. It's still not finished. I think there are 6 books out. 7 if you're in the US, because they split the 5th one in 2 parts, I think. They are excellent. Dystopian fantasy mashup thing. It's really epic and interesting, and some really memorable characters, and I adore it. However, possibly an even better fantasy just in terms of the epic world building is, I believe, the LEGENDSONG series. It's meant to be a trilogy. Thus far there are only 2 books out. The first one is called Darkfall, and the second one is called Dark Song. And these are very fascinating stories concerning 2 twins, both of whom fall into an alternate universe but are separated within that universe, and just the different cultures and family clashes and all the different dynamics that are going on in that universe. Also there's death and prophecy making and craziness, and they're just really fascinating reads. I haven't heard of many people who've read them, and I really like to promote them. So the LEGENDSONG series by Isabelle Carmody, Darkfall and Dark Song are the 2 ones that are out at the moment. Pick them up and read them, because Isabelle Carmody is amazing. And my final purchase in this retail therapy session was the Vintage Classics edition of Anne of Green Gables. I don't usually like to purchase second copies of books I already own, and I do own the entire Anne series in the mid-90s mass market paperback editions, and the first 3 especially are battered and held together with sticky tape and falling apart and all brown and yucky, but I still love them and they're not going anywhere. But I just saw this one was on special for $5 and I wanted to pick it up because I think it is really cute and sweet. And at the back it has adorable things like an Anne of Green Gables quiz, which of course I got 10 out of 10 on, and recipes for making desserts, and all these little extra things that are just cute. And I thought, you know, out of all the books I already own that I wouldn't mind having a second copy of, just for sentimental purposes, Anne would have to be it. So I do actually now have a second copy of Anne of Green Gables, and it wasn't expensive, which I always prefer to get my classics as cheap as I can, provided I like the covers. So I'm happy with this one. I think it's really sweet. So that was my little retail therapy session. There will be more videos coming soon, including the long-awaited journal mashup tag, the second part of my fantasy fairy tale anthology recommendations. So stay tuned for those. I will link all the folks who have pretty much inspired these high fantasy purchases, because I've been watching a lot of channels lately with really detailed, passionate reviews on several of the books that I've mentioned here. So I will link everyone in the doobly-doo. Thank you for inspiring me to want to get back into this genre. I really have missed it over the last few years. Hopefully I will enjoy all of these books. I look forward to further recommendations from everybody. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye! And bye from Ollie, who is currently standing over there on the bed giving me the evil eye. Books are good for sniffing.